Park Ji-hoon stood in the grand hall of the Galactic Council station, trying not to show how nervous he felt. The massive chamber floated in orbit around Neptune, its walls made of some transparent material that showed the stars outside. Dozens of alien species filled the room, each one stranger than the last. Some had multiple arms, others floated in the air, and a few looked almost human but not quite right. Ji-hoon was 32 years old and had been a diplomat for 8 years. He wore a simple black suit, his dark hair neatly combed. Ambassador Lee Hyun stood beside him, an older man with gray hair who kept adjusting his tie nervously. On Ji-hoon's other side was Kang Mirai, a security specialist with sharp eyes that constantly scanned the room. "Remember," Hyun whispered, "humanity has only been part of the council for 15 years. We must be careful not to offend anyone." Ji-hoon nodded. Earth had discovered faster than light travel only recently, and the galaxy was still deciding if humans were worth respect or just another primitive species. Every word mattered. The room fell silent as a figure entered from the far side. She walked with perfect grace, and every alien in the chamber either bowed or stepped back. Queen Valera of the Ashtar Empire had arrived. She was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that seemed to glow with soft blue light. Her features were almost human, but her eyes were pure silver without pupils. Long white hair flowed down her back like water. She wore armor that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced, with patterns that seemed to move when Ji-hoon looked at them. "The eternal flame," Mirai breathed beside him. "She rules 40% of known space." Ji-hoon had read the reports. Queen Valera had led the Ashtar Empire for 300 years. She was known as brilliant, ruthless, and utterly dedicated to her people. No one challenged her authority. No one dared. The diplomatic session began with boring speeches about trade agreements and territorial boundaries. Ji-hoon found his attention drifting until he noticed something odd. Queen Valera was staring directly at him, not at Ambassador Hyun, who was technically the senior diplomat. At him, their eyes met across the chamber. Ji-hoon felt a strange sensation, like being scanned by a machine but warmer. He quickly looked away. The session continued for another hour. Various species presented their concerns and requests. The council debated, argued, and eventually voted on minor issues. Ji-hoon was asked to speak twice about human perspectives on resource sharing, and he gave careful, measured answers. Then, as the session was ending, Queen Valera stood. The entire chamber fell silent instantly. "I wish to make an announcement," she said. Her voice was clear and strong, with an accent Ji-hoon couldn't place. "It concerns the human delegation." Hyun went pale. Mirai's hand moved closer to her weapon. Ji-hoon's heart began to race. Had they offended her somehow? Was Earth about to lose its council membership? Valera walked down from her elevated platform. She moved through the crowd of aliens, and they parted before her like water. She walked straight toward the human delegation. Straight toward Ji-hoon, she stopped directly in front of him. Up close, he could see the bioluminescent patterns on her skin, shifting like living tattoos. She was even taller than he thought, and her presence was overwhelming. "Park Ji-hoon," she said, and somehow she pronounced his name perfectly. "I have watched your species since you joined the council. I have studied your history, your wars, your survival. I have observed your negotiations and your strategies." Ji-hoon tried to speak but couldn't find his voice. Behind Valera, he could see hundreds of alien eyes watching this moment. "I am impressed," Valera continued. "Your species has faced extinction multiple times and survived. You adapt. You endure. You think in ways others do not." She paused, and something like a smile touched her lips. "You interest me, Park Ji-hoon." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Ji-hoon managed to say. "Humanity is honored by your—" "I choose you," Valera interrupted. "I ask you to become my consort, to stand beside me as co-ruler of the Ashtar Empire. This is my formal request before the council." The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens began shouting in dozens of languages. Hyun grabbed Ji-hoon's arm so hard it hurt. Mirai actually drew her weapon halfway before catching herself. Ji-hoon felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. "Consort? Co-ruler? This had to be some kind of mistake or misunderstanding." "Your Majesty," he said slowly. I don't understand. We just met. I'm just a diplomat. I do not make mistakes," Valera said calmly, as if she hadn't just caused chaos in the council chamber. "I have given this much thought. You are suitable. You are worthy. I require an answer." Ji-hoon looked at Hyun, who seemed about to faint. He looked at Mireille, who shook her head frantically. He looked back at Valira, at those silver eyes that seemed to see right through him. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, but I must decline. I'm honored truly, but I cannot accept." Valira tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You refuse?" "Yes, Your Majesty. I must." For a moment, Ji-hoon thought he saw disappointment cross her face. Then her expression became neutral again. "I see," she said. "This is unexpected but not insurmountable." She reached into her armor and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with inner light. She pressed it into Ji-hoon's hand. "I give you 1 lunar cycle to reconsider. Think carefully, Park Ji-hoon. This offer will not be made again, but neither will I accept your refusal just yet." She turned and walked away, her armor glowing brighter. The other aliens quickly cleared a path for her. At the chamber entrance, she paused and looked back. 1 month, she said. "I will return for your answer." Then she was gone, and the chamber erupted into argument once more. Ji-hoon stood frozen, the crystal warm in his palm. He could feel it humming with some kind of energy. As he watched, images began to flash in his mind. He saw stars he didn't recognize. He saw vast fleets of ships in battle. He saw Valira standing alone on a balcony looking out at an alien sunset with an expression of deep loneliness. "What have you done?" Hyun whispered, his voice shaking. "What have you done to us?" Ji-hoon didn't have an answer. He closed his fist around the crystal and wondered the same thing. The eternal flame had chosen him, and somehow, he knew his life would never be the same again. The crystal pulsed once more, warm against his skin, and he heard a whisper in his mind that might have been his imagination, or might have been something else entirely. "Think about it. Park Ji-hoon, think about what we could accomplish together." He shivered and put the crystal in his pocket, already knowing that sleep would be difficult tonight. Ji-hoon returned to Earth 3 days later, exhausted and confused. Seoul looked the same as always, with its towering buildings and busy streets, but everything felt different now. He couldn't stop thinking about silver eyes and a voice in his head. The crystal sat on his apartment desk, glowing softly in the darkness. Every night it showed him more visions. He saw Valira commanding fleets, negotiating treaties, walking through gardens on worlds he'd never heard of. Sometimes she looked strong and confident. Other times, when she thought no one was watching, she looked tired and alone. "You look terrible," his brother said, walking into the apartment without knocking. Choi Dae-han was younger by 3 years, a military strategist with sharp features and an annoying habit of being right about everything. He dropped a bag of food on the table. "Eat something. You can't hide from this." "I'm not hiding," Ji-hoon said, though he hadn't left his apartment in 2 days. "I'm thinking." "About the alien queen who wants to marry you?" Dae-han sat down and started unpacking containers of food. "Yeah, everyone on Earth is thinking about that. It's all over the news. They're calling you the chosen one and Earth's champion. Some people think you should accept. Others think you're a traitor for even considering it." "I'm not considering it," Ji-hoon said quickly. "Liar." Dae-han pushed a container toward him. "I know you, brother. You're always considering every angle. That's what makes you good at your job." Before Ji-hoon could respond, his apartment's communication system lit up. An emergency alert flashed across the screen. Then Ambassador Hyun's face appeared, looking panicked. "She's here," Hyun said. "Queen Valira is on Earth. She landed in Seoul 20 minutes ago. Ji-hoon, she's coming to see you." The connection cut off. Ji-hoon and Dae-han stared at each other. "That was fast," Dae-han said. "How long did she give you to decide?" "A month. It's been 5 days." A knock came at the door. Not the buzzer for the building entrance. The door to his apartment. Someone had gotten past all the security. Ji-hoon opened the door. Queen Valira stood in his hallway, wearing simpler clothes than before but still looking regal. 2 Ashtar guards flanked her, both carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Behind them, he could see his building's security staff unconscious on the floor. "They are sleeping, not dead," Valira said, noticing his look. "May I enter?" "Do I have a choice?" Ji-hoon asked. "Always." Valira gestured and her guards moved back. "I came alone by your standards. No army, no fleet, just me and 2 protectors. I wish to speak with you properly." Ji-hoon stepped aside. Valira entered, her head nearly touching his ceiling. Dae-han stood up quickly, his hand moving toward the weapon he always carried. Valira glanced at him. "Your brother," she said. "The strategist. I have read about him. Impressive mind. How do you know about my brother?" Ji-hoon demanded. I told you. I have studied humanity. I have studied you specifically. Valera looked around his small apartment with interest. This is where you live. It is modest. It's enough, Ji-hoon said defensively. Your Majesty, you said I had a month. I did. I also said I wanted to speak with you properly. She sat down on his couch, which creaked under her weight. Your council meeting was not the place for honesty. Here we can be direct. Daehan moved to stand beside Ji-hoon. Why him? Why my brother specifically? Valera looked at Daehan, then back at Ji-hoon. A fair question. I will answer. She leaned forward. My species, the Ashtar, have a problem. Our queens must produce heirs to continue our bloodlines. But we cannot reproduce with just anyone. We need what we call a genetic spark from species that have faced extinction and survived. Why? Ji-hoon asked. Because survival creates something in the genetic code. Something strong. Something we need. Valera's eyes glowed brighter. Humanity has nearly died out 7 times in your history. Wars, plagues, climate disasters. Each time you survived. You adapted. That makes your species valuable to us. So we're breeding stock? Daehan said angrily. No. Valera's voice became hard. If that was all I wanted, I could take any human by force. I came to Ji-hoon specifically because I need more than genetics. I need a partner. Someone who can think strategically. Someone who understands sacrifice and duty. She pulled out a small device and projected a hologram into the air. It showed a battle scene. Humans and Ashtar fighting side by side against something dark and terrible. This was the Titan Station incident 4 years ago, Valera said. Pirates attacked a mining station. 300 beings were taken hostage. You led the negotiation, Ji-hoon remembered. It had been one of his first major assignments. We saved most of them. You saved all of them, Valera corrected. The pirates demanded ships and weapons. You gave them coordinates instead. Coordinates that led them into an ambush. But you also ensured they could surrender honorably so no final battle was needed. Clever, merciful, strategic. She changed the hologram. It showed Ji-hoon in various situations over the years. Negotiations, conferences, even personal moments he didn't know had been recorded. I have watched you for 3 years, Valera admitted. I chose you because you think like I do. You see many moves ahead, but you also care about people, something I have lost over centuries. You could balance me. Together we could be stronger than either of us alone. This is insane, Ji-hoon said. You're asking me to leave Earth, leave humanity, and become something I don't understand. I am asking you to save your species, Valera said quietly. Let me show you something else. The hologram changed again. This time it showed a map of the galaxy. A large portion was marked in red. This is the Vreth Swarm, Valera said. They are not like us. They do not negotiate or trade. They consume everything in their path. My empire has been fighting them for 200 years. She pointed to a spot on the map. Earth is here. The Vreth expansion pattern suggests they will reach human space in 50 to 70 years. Ji-hoon felt cold. Why didn't you tell the council this? Because most species would panic or refuse to believe it. But you, I think you understand strategy enough to see the truth. Valera stood. I need an heir before the next major Vreth invasion. That heir needs human genetics, human thinking. And I need a consort who can help lead the defense of this entire sector of space. So this is business, Ji-hoon said bitterly. Not personal. Something flickered in Valera's silver eyes. It started as business, she admitted. But I have been alone for a very long time, Park Ji-hoon. I have had 3 consorts in my life. All died in battle. All were brave. None truly understood me. She stepped closer. When I saw you save those hostages, I saw someone who thinks like I do. That is rare. That is precious. I need time, Ji-hoon said. Then take it. But first prove yourself to me. Valera smiled slightly. I challenge you to a game. 5 rounds of strategy. Any game you choose. If you win 3 rounds, I will leave you alone forever. If I win 3 rounds, you must at least visit my homeworld before deciding. Daehan spoke up. What kind of games? Any he wishes. Chess Go or simulations, puzzle challenges. I do not care. I simply wish to see how his mind works, Ji-hoon thought about it. If he could beat her, this would all be over. He could return to his normal life. But something told him Valera didn't lose games very often. Agreed, he said finally. Starting tomorrow. Excellent. Valera moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. There are some in my empire who do not approve of my choosing a human. They may try to eliminate you, My guards will remain nearby for your protection. What? Ji-hoon said, alarmed, but Valera was already leaving. Her guards followed, and within moments his apartment was empty again except for Daehan. Brother, Daehan said slowly, I think you're in serious trouble. Ji-hoon sat down heavily. I know. That night the crystal showed him new visions. Valera standing alone in a massive throne room, shoulders slumped with exhaustion. Valera holding a small child centuries ago before that child grew up and died of old age. Valera watching stars explode and civilizations fall. And in the final vision, Valera looked directly at him through time and space and whispered, I'm so tired of being alone. Please consider this not just as strategy, but as a person asking another person for companionship. Ji-hoon touched the crystal. And for the first time, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was more to this than politics and genetics. Ji-hoon won 3 games out of 5. He barely believed it himself. They played over 3 days in a private room the Ashtar had set up. Chess first, which Valera won easily. Then Go, which Ji-hoon won after a 6-hour match that left him mentally exhausted. A war simulation went to Valera. A logic puzzle went to Ji-hoon. The final game was a strategic negotiation scenario, and Ji-hoon won by thinking of something Valera hadn't expected. He surrendered early to save resources for a later advantage. When it was over, Valera looked at him with something like wonder. No one has beaten me in games like this for 80 years, she said. You are extraordinary, Park Ji-hoon. So you'll leave me alone? Ji-hoon asked, though part of him felt disappointed rather than relieved. No. Valera smiled. The agreement was that you would visit my home world if I won. But you won, so now I ask you differently. Please come see Velkaris, not because you lost a bet, but because I want to show you the truth. Give me 3 days. If you still wish to refuse after that, I will accept your decision. Ji-hoon looked at his brother, who had watched all the games. Daehan shrugged. You've come this far. Might as well see what you're refusing. 2 days later, Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of an Ashtar ship heading toward Velkaris. The journey took only hours using their faster-than-light drives, which were generations ahead of human technology. Mirai had come with him as security, and Kim Soman, a xenobiologist from Seoul National University, had tagged along to study Ashtar culture. This is incredible, Soman kept saying, examining everything. She was a small woman with bright eyes and an endless curiosity. Their biology is so complex. And look at these ships. The way they integrate technology with organic systems. Velkaris appeared in the viewing screen and Ji-hoon forgot to breathe. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. But 3 massive rings circled it, each one a different color. Cities floated in the upper atmosphere, connected by bridges of light. Home, Valera said, standing beside him. She had barely left his side during the journey. The rings are defensive stations. We built them 500 years ago during the First Vreth War. They landed in the capital city, where crowds of Ashtar gathered to see their queen return. Ji-hoon noticed something odd. The people looked happy to see Valera. They didn't seem afraid. Children ran up to her and she actually smiled at them, touching their heads gently. I thought you were a conqueror, Ji-hoon said quietly. The council makes it sound like you rule through fear. The council fears what they do not understand, Valera replied. Come, I will show you what they refuse to see. Over the next 2 days, Valera gave Ji-hoon a tour of her empire that changed everything he thought he knew. She showed him schools where dozens of species learned together, hospitals where Ashtar medicine saved lives regardless of species, trade centers where even the smallest species had fair representation. Yes, I conquered these worlds, Valera explained, as they walked through a market filled with aliens of all types, but not for power, for survival. When the Vreth first came, species fought alone and died. I united them by force because they would not unite voluntarily. Now they live because we stand together. She took him to a military base where Admiral Yun Jiwoo, a human, commanded a mixed fleet of ships. Ji-hoon was shocked to see a human in such a high position. Your people are good at war, Jiwoo said bluntly. She was in her 50s with gray hair and scars on her hands. We think differently than most species. More creative, more willing to take risks. The Ashtar recognized that quickly. How many humans serve in the Empire? Ji-hoon asked. About 50,000, Jiwoo said. Volunteers, all of them. We came because we saw the real threat. She pulled up a hologram showing battle reports. The Vreth aren't like anything you've faced. They're not evil or cruel. They're just hungry. They consume planets entirely, strip them down to nothing, then move on. No negotiation is possible because they're driven by instinct, not thought. That night, Valera took Ji-hoon to a command center deep underground. Screens showed the edges of the Empire where battles raged constantly. "This is the reality," Valera said. "We are always at war, always defending. The Vreth come in waves, sometimes decades apart, sometimes months. We predict the next major wave will reach this sector in 40 to 60 years. When it does, Earth is directly in their path." Ji-hoon watched the screens, seeing ships fight and die against things that looked like a cross between machines and living creatures. "Why didn't you tell the Council this?" "I tried. 20 years ago I presented all the evidence. Most species called me a warmonger. They said I was inventing threats to justify my expansion." Valera's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with anger, so I stopped trying to convince them. I simply prepared for what is coming. "Those who wish to join me can survive. Those who refuse," she trailed off, "will die," Ji-hoon finished. "Yes." Valera took him to her personal quarters that night. The rooms were surprisingly simple with minimal decoration. She poured him a drink that tasted like honey and fire. "I need a consort for practical reasons," she said, sitting across from him. "Ashtar queens must produce heirs. Our biology requires genetic material from species that have survived extinction events. But more than that, I need someone who can lead when I am gone." "Gone?" Ji-hoon asked. Valera was quiet for a moment. "I am dying, Park Ji-hoon. Slowly, but dying. My species lives long, but not forever. I have perhaps 100 years remaining. The Vreth War will outlast me. I need an heir who can bridge the gap between Ashtar and human thinking. Someone who can unite species not through conquest, but through respect." She stood and walked to a window overlooking the city. "My first consort died fighting the Vreth 300 years ago. My second died in an accident. My third died defending a colony from pirates. I have been alone for 80 years because I could not bear to lose someone again. But time grows short." Ji-hoon joined her at the window. "Why me specifically?" "There must be other humans who are smarter, stronger, better leaders." "Perhaps," Valera turned to him. "But I have watched you for years. You think strategically but act with compassion. You see the larger picture but care about individual lives. You are what I need, what this empire needs." Before Ji-hoon could respond, alarms began blaring. Valera's expression changed instantly from vulnerable to commanding. "Report," she said, touching a communication device. "Vreth incursion on the border," a voice replied. "Not a major force, but significant. They're attacking Research Station Omega." "How many humans are stationed there?" Ji-hoon asked. Valera checked a display. 37, plus 200 other species. "The station is studying Vreth biology, trying to find weaknesses." She moved toward the door. "I must go to the command center. Can I come?" Ji-hoon asked. Valera looked at him. "This will not be pleasant." "War never is. I need to see it." "Really see it," she nodded. "Then come." In the command center, Ji-hoon watched the battle unfold on screens. The Vreth ships moved like living things, changing shape as they attacked. The defense was fierce, but the station was being overwhelmed. "Send reinforcements," Valera ordered. "They won't arrive in time," an officer reported. "The station has perhaps 15 minutes before the Vreth breach the hull." Ji-hoon watched the humans on the station fighting. They used tactics he recognized from Earth's military history. Guerrilla moves, unexpected attacks, sacrificing position for better angles. They were good, but they were outnumbered. Then something changed. One human, a young man who couldn't be older than 20, made a decision. He activated the station's emergency protocols and turned the entire research facility into a weapon, using the Vreth's own biology against them. The explosion destroyed the Vreth force but also crippled the station. "Casualties?" Valera asked quietly. 12 dead, 25 injured. The human who triggered the protocol survived. He saved everyone. Valera closed her eyes briefly. "Send medical ships immediately." "Full honors for the dead." She turned to Ji-hoon. "This is why I need your people." That man thought of something no Ashtar would have considered. He broke every rule and saved lives. Ji-hoon felt something shift inside him. He had spent days learning about the Empire, seeing how species lived together, watching how Valera truly ruled. Now he saw the real threat. Now he understood. "If I accept," he said slowly, "what happens to Earth? To humanity? Earth becomes a co-capital of the Empire," Valera said immediately. "You retain full autonomy for your planet. Humanity receives our technology, our protection, our resources. In return, you provide soldiers, thinkers, strategists, a true alliance, not a conquest. And me personally, you become my consort. We bond through an Ashtar ritual that links our minds. You receive genetic enhancements that will let you live centuries. You gain genuine political power, second only to mine, and you help me build something that can survive beyond both of us. Ji-hoon thought about his brother, his friends, his planet. He thought about the young man who had just saved a station full of people. He thought about the Vreth coming toward Earth in a few decades. I need to see one more thing, he said. I need to meet your daughter. The one who will inherit if I don't give you an heir. Valera's expression became guarded. Nari will not welcome you. I need to meet her anyway. Very well, Valera said.
But do not say I did not warn you.
Princess Nari stood in the training arena with a weapon in each hand, waiting for Ji-hoon to arrive. She was tall like her mother, with the same silver eyes and glowing skin, but where Valera moved with controlled grace, Nari radiated barely contained violence. So you're the human, she said when Ji-hoon entered. Her voice was cold. The one who thinks he can replace me. I don't want to replace anyone, Ji-hoon said carefully. He had left Mirai outside, knowing this meeting needed to be private. I just want to understand the situation. Understand this, Nari said, moving closer. I have trained my entire life to rule. I have led fleets in battle. I have negotiated treaties. I have earned my position. Then you appear, and suddenly my mother considers giving everything to a child who doesn't even exist yet. Your mother isn't trying to hurt you, Ji-hoon said. She's trying to save the Empire. By bringing in a human? Nari laughed bitterly. Your species has been in space for 15 years, 15. My people have sailed the stars for 10,000 years. What can you possibly offer that we don't already have? Ji-hoon thought about the young man who had saved the research station. A different perspective. New ideas. That's what your mother sees in humanity. Then she's a fool. Nari threw one of her weapons aside. Prove yourself, human. Face me in combat. Let's see if you're worthy of standing beside the eternal flame. I'm not a soldier, Ji-hoon said. I'm a diplomat. Then you'll die quickly. Nari activated her remaining weapon, which hummed with energy. Defend yourself or flee. Those are your options. Ji-hoon realized she was serious. He grabbed a training weapon from the wall, his hands shaking. He had basic self-defense training, but Nari was a warrior who had lived for decades. This was suicide. Nari attacked and Ji-hoon barely dodged. She moved like lightning, each strike perfectly placed. Ji-hoon stumbled backward, blocking desperately. He couldn't win through strength or skill. He had seconds before she overwhelmed him. So he stopped trying to fight and started thinking. Humans fought differently than most species. Earth's history was full of weaker forces defeating stronger ones through creativity. Ji-hoon watched Nari's pattern, saw her confidence, and realized something. She expected him to fight with honor. He didn't. Ji-hoon threw sand from the arena floor into her eyes, then swept her legs using a move Daehan had taught him years ago. Nari fell, surprised, and Ji-hoon put his weapon to her throat. I yield, he said immediately, stepping back and dropping the weapon. You're the better fighter. But I survived longer than you expected. Nari wiped sand from her eyes, staring at him. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. You fight like a desperate animal. No honor, no grace, just survival. She stood up. My mother was right. Humans are interesting. Does that mean you won't kill me? Ji-hoon asked. It means I won't kill you today. Nari picked up her weapons. But understand this, Park Ji-hoon. If you accept my mother's offer, you enter a world of politics and power that will eat you alive. There are others who oppose this union, beings far more dangerous than me. They will test you, challenge you, try to break you. Can your human mind handle that? I don't know, Ji-hoon admitted, but I'm trying to decide if I should find out. Nari studied him for a long moment. Walk with me, she finally said. They left the arena and walked through the palace gardens. The plants here were alien, with flowers that sang and trees that shifted colors. Other Ashtar nobles passed by, staring at Ji-hoon with varying degrees of hostility. My mother has been alone for 80 years, Nari said quietly. Do you know what that does to someone? She has watched friends die, lovers die, children grow old and die. She has fought endless wars and made impossible decisions. She is the strongest person I know, but she is also tired. She told me she's dying, Ji-hoon said. Slowly. She has time, but not enough. Nari stopped beside a fountain. When she first mentioned choosing a human consort, I thought she had lost her mind. But then I researched your species. You're survivors. Every time extinction came for you, you found a way through. That's rare in the galaxy. Most species don't face extinction as often as we do, Ji-hoon said dryly. Exactly. Most species live on stable worlds and develop slowly. But humans? Your planet tried to kill you repeatedly. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, plagues, asteroids. You should have died a dozen times. Instead, you thrived. That creates something special in the genetic code and in the culture. Nari looked at him. My mother needs that. The Empire needs that. What about what I need? Ji-hoon asked. Everyone keeps telling me what I should do for humanity. For the Empire, for Valira. But I'm just one person. What if I'm not strong enough for this? Then you'll break and we'll all suffer for it. Nari's honesty was brutal. But I don't think you'll break. You faced me in combat when you knew you'd lose, and you still found a way to survive. That's what we need. Not strength, but adaptability. That evening, Valira invited Ji-hoon to dinner in her private quarters. It was just the two of them, no guards or advisors. She had prepared the food herself, which surprised him. I can cook, she said, amused by his expression. I lived alone for many years before becoming queen. I learned many practical skills. The food was strange but delicious. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Valira spoke. Nari told me about your fight, she said. She was impressed. She knocked me down in about 3 seconds, Ji-hoon pointed out. But you got back up. You adapted. You survived. Valira smiled. That's what I saw in you from the beginning. Not power or strength, but flexibility. The ability to change strategies when needed. Is that why you watched me for so long? Ji-hoon asked. Why you studied me? Partially. Valira was quiet for a moment. But there's another reason. When I watched you negotiate during that hostage crisis, I saw something I had lost. You cared about every single life, human and alien. You made decisions based not just on strategy, but on empathy. I have been queen for so long that I sometimes forget individuals matter. I needed to be reminded. She stood and walked to a window. The city lights spread out below them, countless lives going about their evenings. If you accept my offer, Valira said, the bonding ritual will link our minds. You will see my memories, my thoughts, my fears. I will see yours. There will be no secrets between us. For someone like me who has guarded myself for centuries, that is terrifying. For someone like me who's just a normal human, it's terrifying too, Ji-hoon admitted. Valira turned to face him. I will not force you. The choice is yours. But I want you to know this isn't just political for me anymore. When I first considered a human consort, yes, it was strategic. But after watching you, speaking with you, playing games with you, I find that I simply enjoy your company. That is rare for me. Ji-hoon felt his heart racing. Your Majesty, Valira, she interrupted. When we are alone, call me Valira. Valira, he said, testing her name. I need to be honest. I'm scared of the responsibility of the changes to my body, of losing myself in this role. But I'm also, he struggled for words, I'm beginning to understand why you chose me. I see the threat coming. I see what you're trying to build. And I think maybe I could help. Then what stops you from accepting? Valira asked. My people? Earth's government is going crazy over this. Half want me to accept for the benefits. Half think I'm a traitor. There are protests in Seoul. Religious leaders are calling it unnatural. Politicians are demanding I return immediately. Ji-hoon ran his hands through his hair. If I do this, I'm not just changing my life. I'm changing humanity's future. Yes, Valira said simply. That is the burden of this choice. I cannot make it lighter. The next morning, Ji-hoon woke to find his communicator filled with messages. Ambassador Hyun was demanding his return. His brother was asking what he'd decided. But one message caught his attention. It was from Han Yoonji, a neuroscientist who specialized in alien-human interfaces. She had studied the Ashtar bonding process. If you accept, her message said, you need to understand what you're agreeing to. The bond isn't just sharing thoughts. It permanently alters your brain structure. You'll live for centuries, but you'll also become partially Ashtar mentally. Some test subjects reported losing touch with their original identity. You need to consider if you're willing to stop being purely human. Ji-hoon stared at the message for a long time. Stop being purely human. Was he ready for that? He found Valira in the command center reviewing reports. She looked up when he entered. I need a few more days, Ji-hoon said. not to decide whether to accept. I think I've already decided, but to prepare, to say goodbye to my old life if I'm starting a new one. Valera studied his face. You've decided to accept? I think so. But I need to go back to Earth first. Talk to my family, my government. Make sure they understand this isn't a betrayal but an opportunity. He paused. And I need to see my home one last time as just Park Ji-hoon, not as someone's consort. Then go, Valera said softly. I will wait. But know this. Once you bond with me, there is no going back. The change is permanent. You will live centuries. You will share my burdens and my power. You will see things that will change you forever. I know, Ji-hoon said. That's what scares me. But it's also what makes this necessary. You can't face the Vreth alone. Humanity can't survive alone. Maybe together we have a chance. Ji-hoon spent 2 weeks on Earth, and they were the hardest weeks of his life. Everywhere he went, people had opinions about his decision. Some called him a hero. Others called him a traitor. Religious leaders debated whether bonding with an alien was natural. Politicians argued about what this meant for Earth's sovereignty. His brother Daehan understood, though. You're doing what needs to be done, Daehan said over dinner on Ji-hoon's last night home. Someone has to bridge the gap between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Might as well be someone who actually thinks about consequences. I'm going to change, Ji-hoon said quietly. Yoonji said the bonding alters brain structure. What if I stop being me? Then you'll be a new version of you. Daehan poured them both drinks. People change anyway, brother. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago. This is just faster and more dramatic. The day of the bonding ceremony arrived. It would be held on Velkaris but broadcast across the galaxy. Every species would watch. Ji-hoon wore traditional Korean clothing mixed with Ashtar formal wear, a symbol of two cultures joining. Valera wore armor that seemed to be made of living light. She looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. When she saw Ji-hoon, something soft entered her expression. You came back, she said. I promised I would. The ceremony took place in a massive chamber carved from crystal. Thousands of Ashtar watched in person, while billions more watched on screens. Ji-hoon could see Nari standing near the front, her expression neutral. Ambassador Yan was there too, looking nervous but supportive. Mirai and Soman stood with the human delegation, both trying to look confident. A ceremonial leader, an ancient Ashtar with skin like starlight, approached them. This bonding will connect two minds permanently. You will share thoughts, memories, emotions. Are you both certain? Yes, Valera said firmly. Yes, Ji-hoon echoed, though his heart was pounding. The ritual began with words in an ancient language Ji-hoon didn't understand. Then the ceremonial leader placed their hands together and wrapped them with a cord that glowed with inner light. Open your minds, the leader instructed. Let the bond form. Ji-hoon felt a sensation like diving into warm water. Then Valera's memories hit him like a flood. He saw her as a child learning to rule. He saw her first battle, terrified but hiding it. He saw her first consort, a being of strength and courage who died defending a colony. He saw her second consort, gentle and kind, who died in an accident that still haunted her. He saw her third consort, wise and strategic, who gave his life to save a fleet. He saw centuries of war. Planets burning, species dying, the endless fight against the Vreth. He saw Valera making impossible decisions, sacrificing thousands to save millions. He saw her crying alone in her quarters, mourning people no one else remembered. He saw her watching him during that hostage crisis 3 years ago, seeing something in him that gave her hope, and he felt her emotions, the loneliness that had become her constant companion, the fear that she would die before preparing the Empire for what was coming, the desperate wish to have someone who understood her burdens. But Valera was seeing his memories too. She saw his childhood during Earth's resource wars, the hunger and fear. She saw his sister dying of plague while he held her hand. She saw him becoming a diplomat because he never wanted others to feel that helpless again. She saw every negotiation, every careful word, every time he had sacrificed his own desires for the greater good. She saw his fear of not being enough, of failing the people who depended on him, and she felt his emotions. His uncertainty and fear about this bonding, his growing affection for her despite trying to remain professional, his desperate hope that he could actually help her save the galaxy. The bond snapped into place, and suddenly Ji-hoon could feel Valera's presence in his mind. Not invading, not controlling, just there. Like having another sense he'd never known was missing. Ji-hun, Valira's voice said in his head, though her lips didn't move. Can you hear me? Yes, he thought back, and he knew she heard him. Out loud, the ceremonial leader announced, the bond is complete. They are now one partnership, two minds united in purpose. The chamber erupted in cheers from some, silence from others, but Ji-hun barely heard it. He was too focused on the strange sensation of being connected to another person's thoughts. Then the alarm started blaring. Everyone froze. The ceremonial mood shattered as guards rushed in. An officer approached Valira, speaking urgently. Attack on Earth, the officer said. Anti-alien extremists have bombed the UN building in New York. Casualties unknown. And here on Velkaris, there's been a breach in the palace security. Breath agents have infiltrated the lower levels. Ji-hun felt Valira's emotions through the bond. Fury, determination, and concern for him. She looked at him. This is coordinated. Someone planned attacks on both worlds during the ceremony. How? Ji-hun demanded. How could anyone coordinate human terrorists with breath agents? Through their bond, they both realized the same thing at once. There was a traitor. Someone was feeding information to both groups. We need to split up, Valira said. I'll handle the breath here. You go to Earth. I'm not leaving you to fight alone, Ji-hun protested. You must. Your people are under attack. They need to see you care about Earth, not just the Empire. Valira gripped his shoulders. We're bonded now. I'll be with you in your mind. You won't be alone. She was right. Ji-hun could feel her certainty through their connection. He nodded. Nari, Valira called. Go with Ji-hun, protect him. Mother, Nari started to protest. Now, Valira commanded, and Nari reluctantly moved to Ji-hun's side. Ji-hun ran from the chamber with Nari, Mireille, and a squad of guards. Behind him, he could feel Valira organizing the defense through their bond. It was disorienting, but also incredible. He knew where she was, what she was thinking, what she needed. They reached a transport ship. Mireille took the pilot seat while Nari coordinated with the guards. Ji-hun sat in the command chair, trying to process everything while simultaneously feeling Valira fighting breath agents through their mental connection. The journey to Earth took hours, even at maximum speed. The entire time, Ji-hun felt Valira battling through the palace. The Vreth had sent assassins, not soldiers. They were trying to kill specific targets. Advisors, generals, anyone important to the Empire's leadership. Valira fought like a storm, her centuries of experience showing. But Ji-hun could feel her worry for him, her fear that the attack on Earth was worse. When they arrived, New York was in chaos. The UN building was partially destroyed. Emergency services were overwhelmed. But what surprised Ji-hun was that Ashtar ships had already arrived to help, along with vessels from other allied species. Admiral Jiwoo sent them the moment she heard. Nari explained. The Empire protects its own. Earth is part of the Empire now. Ji-hun went straight to the disaster site. Rescue workers were pulling people from the rubble. He saw humans and aliens working side by side, saving lives without caring about species. Ambassador Hyon appeared, covered in dust but alive. The terrorists were human extremists working with unknown aliens. We caught some of them. They're babbling about keeping humanity pure, but they had alien weapons and coordination. Through his bond with Valira, Ji-hun suddenly understood. It's a setup. Someone wanted to create division between humans and Ashtar, make it look like we can't work together. Who? Hyon asked. Ji-hun reached out through the bond. Valira, who benefits if our bonding fails? Her answer came immediately. Those who fear a human Ashtar alliance, some Ashtar nobles, some council species, and the Vreth who need us divided. Then he felt her shock. Ji-hun, I found something. High Chancellor Thelnos is missing. He disappeared during the attack. He knew the security protocols. He could have let the assassins in. Thelnos was Valira's oldest advisor, someone she had trusted for decades. The betrayal cut deep, and Ji-hun felt her pain through the bond. We'll find him, Ji-hun promised through their connection. Together. For the next 12 hours, Ji-hun coordinated rescue efforts on Earth while feeling Valira hunting Thelnos through the palace. Their bond let them work as one mind in two places, sharing information and insights instantly. It was Dahan who found the connection. He analyzed the attack patterns and realized both strikes had been meant to fail. They weren't trying to kill everyone, he explained. They were trying to scare people, make humans afraid of aliens, Make Ashtar think humans are unstable. A psychological attack, Ji-hoon said, understanding. Through the bond, Valira reached the same conclusion. They found Thelnos in a hidden chamber, preparing to flee Velkaris. Valira confronted him personally, with Ji-hoon watching through their shared vision. Why? Valira demanded. You served me for 80 years because you've gone soft. Thelnos shouted. Choosing a human? The Empire needs strength, not sentiment. I contacted the Vreth. I negotiated with the extremists. I tried to show you this bonding was a mistake. You betrayed everyone, Valira said coldly. For what, pride? For the Empire's survival. Humans are weak. They'll dilute our strength. Through the bond, Ji-hoon spoke, his voice echoing in Valira's mind and coming from her lips. If humans are so weak, why did your perfect plan fail? Why are humans and Ashtar working together right now to save lives on Earth? Thelnos had no answer. Valira ordered him arrested, her disappointment crushing. That night, exhausted, Ji-hoon finally returned to Velkaris. 3 months after the bonding, Ji-hoon woke up feeling Valira's consciousness before he opened his eyes. She was already awake, reviewing military reports in her office 3 floors away. Through their bond, he could sense her concern about supply lines and troop movements. Good morning, he thought to her. Good morning, my consort. Her mental voice replied with warmth. There's breakfast in your quarters. You have meetings with the Agricultural Council in 2 hours. Ji-hoon smiled. The bond had changed everything. At first, having someone else's thoughts in his head had been overwhelming. But now it felt natural. He knew where Valira was at all times, what she was feeling, what she needed. And she knew the same about him. The genetic enhancements had changed him too. He was stronger now, faster, and he could see colors that humans normally couldn't perceive. Dr. Soman said he would live for centuries. Sometimes he looked in the mirror and wondered if he was still human. Then Valira's presence would touch his mind, reminding him he wasn't alone in his uncertainty. You're still you, she often told him. Just a better version. Being consort meant real power, not just ceremony. Ji-hoon co-ruled with Valira, making decisions about empire policy, military strategy, and diplomatic relations. The other rulers learned quickly that he wasn't just decoration. When he spoke with Valira's authority and his own growing experience. The bond made them terrifyingly effective as leaders. They could have a conversation in seconds that would take others hours. They understood each other's strategies without explanation. When they disagreed, which happened often, they could work through problems faster because they felt each other's reasoning. Stop thinking so loud, Valira sometimes teased. I can hear you worrying from here. But lately both of them sensed something wrong. Small things. Supply shipments going missing. Communication delays. Reports that didn't quite match reality. Today, those concerns crystallized into certainty. Ji-hoon, come to the command center immediately. Valira's urgent thought pulled him from his breakfast meeting with agricultural representatives. We have a situation. He excused himself and ran. The bond showed him Valira's alarm even before he arrived. In the command center, screen showed concerning data. What is it? He asked. Admiral Ji-woo pointed to a star map. We caught a message. Encrypted, but we broke it. Someone in our government has been secretly communicating with the Vreth. How is that possible? Ji-hoon demanded. The Vreth don't negotiate. These messages aren't negotiations, Ji-woo said grimly. They're intelligence. Someone's been feeding the Vreth information about our defenses, our fleet positions, our weak points, for months. Through the bond, Ji-hoon felt Valira's anger and betrayal. Another traitor. After Thelnos, she had been more careful, more guarded. But someone had still slipped through. Who? Valira asked, her voice cold. We don't know yet. The messages are routed through multiple systems. But whoever it is has high-level access. Ji-woo pulled up more data. There's worse news. A Vreth diplomatic delegation has requested a meeting. They claim they want to negotiate a peace treaty. That's impossible, Ji-hoon said. The Vreth don't think like that. They're driven by instinct to expand and consume. Exactly, Valira agreed. Which means this is either a trap or something has changed about the Vreth that we don't understand. Over the next week, the Galactic Council debated the Vreth request. Most species were excited about the possibility of peace. They pressured Valira to accept the meeting. This is foolish, Valira argued in the council chamber. Ji-hoon stood beside her, their bond making their shared frustration obvious. The Vreth have never negotiated before. Why would they start now? Perhaps your constant warfare has finally convinced them, a council member suggested. Perhaps they're tired of fighting, or perhaps they're buying time, Ji-hoon said. Through his human contacts, he had been researching Vreth biology. My scientists have analyzed Vreth specimens from battles. They reproduce rapidly, exponentially. Every few decades they need new territory, or they run out of resources. They can't negotiate because their biology won't let them. Your human scientists have been studying the Vreth for only 15 years, another council member dismissed. The Queen's paranoia isn't evidence. Through the bond, Ji-hoon felt Valera's hurt at the word paranoia. He squeezed her hand, sending support through their connection. The council voted to force Valera to attend the Vreth diplomatic meeting. If she refused, they threatened to withdraw their support for the Ashtar Empire. It was political blackmail and everyone knew it. We have no choice, Valera told Ji-hoon that night. If the council turns against us, we lose allies we need for the real war that's coming. Then we prepare for a trap, Ji-hoon said. We go to this meeting, but we do it on our terms. They spent days planning. Ji-hoon coordinated with his brother Daehan, who had joined the Empire's strategic division. Together, they developed contingency plans for every scenario they could imagine. The meeting was set for a neutral space station between territories. Valera and Ji-hoon arrived with a full security escort, including Nari and Mirai. The station was crowded with representatives from dozens of species, all curious about this historic moment. The Vreth delegation arrived in ships that looked organic, like they were grown rather than built. When the Vreth representatives emerged, Ji-hoon understood why they scared so many species. They were like insects merged with machines with too many limbs and eyes that saw in multiple spectrums. But there was something else, something wrong. Through the bond, Valera noticed it too. They're moving strangely, she thought to him, not like Vreth normally move. The lead Vreth spoke through a translator device. We come to offer peace. The war has cost both sides too much. We propose a treaty. We keep our current territories. You keep yours. No more expansion by either side. It sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. Half the council representatives were already celebrating. What do you want in exchange? Ji-hoon asked carefully. Only one thing, the Vreth said. You surrender all human territories to us. Humans have the genetic markers we need for our next evolutionary phase. Give us Earth and your colonies and we leave the rest of the galaxy alone. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some species immediately rejected the idea. Others started calculating whether sacrificing humanity would save themselves. Through the bond, Ji-hoon and Valera reached the same conclusion instantly. This was exactly what they'd feared. The Vreth wanted humanity specifically, probably because of those same survival traits that made humans valuable to the Ashtar. Absolutely not, Valera said, her voice cutting through the noise. Humanity is part of my empire. They are under my protection. This negotiation is over. Then we return to war, the Vreth said. But this time we focus all our forces on human space first. You cannot protect them everywhere. It was a threat and a promise. The Vreth were revealing their strategy. Eliminate humanity first, then deal with the rest of the galaxy. Ji-hoon stepped forward. I have a question. You say you want peace, but your biology doesn't allow for peace. You need to expand or die. So either you're lying or something about you has changed. Which is it? The Vreth representatives hesitated just for a moment, but it was enough. Through the bond, Valera caught the same detail Ji-hoon did. These aren't real Vreth, they both realized simultaneously. They're being controlled. Ji-hoon acted on instinct. He grabbed a scanner from Mirai and aimed it at the Vreth delegation. The readings showed something impossible. There were smaller organisms inside the Vreth controlling them like puppets. Parasites, Dr. Soman said, analyzing the data remotely. Someone infected these Vreth with parasites that control their behavior. Someone made them come here and offer this deal. But who? Nari demanded. The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the council security officers suddenly pulled a weapon and fired at Ji-hoon. Nari moved faster, her own weapon destroying the attackers before it could fire again. The officer collapsed and medics rushed forward. Scan them, Valera ordered. The scan showed the same parasites. Someone had infected council security with the same mind control organisms. Through their bond, Ji-hoon and Valera worked together, thinking faster than either could alone. The pieces clicked into place. The traitor isn't just feeding information, Ji-hoon realized. They're using biological weapons. They infected the Vreth to create this fake peace offer. They infected security to create chaos. They want everyone afraid and divided. But why? Valera asked. What's the goal? Dehan's voice came through the communication system. I've been analyzing the pattern of missing supplies. Someone's been stealing biological research materials for months. Materials used to study Vreth specimens. I think someone is trying to weaponize the Vreth, turn them into controllable soldiers. And if they succeed, Jiwoo added, they could control the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The implications were terrifying. The real Vreth were dangerous enough. Vreth under intelligent control would be unstoppable. We need to find who's behind this, Valera said. Immediately. It took 3 days of investigation, but they found the truth. The traitor wasn't one person, but a group. A faction of council members who believed the galaxy needed a single, strong leader. They had been Trajihun stood on a balcony overlooking Seoul, watching his daughter play in the garden below. Hanel was 4 years old with her mother's silver eyes and her father's dark hair. She glowed faintly like the Ashtar but had human features. Right now she was showing off to the other children, making flowers bloom with just a touch of her small hands. She shouldn't be able to do that yet, Dr. Soman said, standing beside Jihun. The genetic projection said those abilities wouldn't develop until she was at least 10. Hanul does a lot of things she shouldn't be able to do, Jihun said with a mixture of pride and worry. Through his bond with Valera, he felt her amusement from across the city where she was meeting with Earth's president. She's extraordinary, Valera's thought touched his mind. Just like her father. The world had changed dramatically in 5 years. The Ashtar Empire had evolved into the Ashtar-Human Alliance, with Earth serving as a co-capital alongside Velkaris. Humans now held positions of power throughout the government. Admiral Jiwoo commanded the combined fleet. Dehan ran the Strategic Planning Division. Ambassador Hyun served on the High Council. The cultural exchange had been even more profound. Oyuna, a human artist and cultural ambassador, had introduced human art, music, and philosophy to Ashtar society. The result was a renaissance. Ashtar cities now featured human architecture alongside their traditional designs. Children of both species learned each other's histories and languages. It's working, Hyun had said during a recent meeting. The alliance isn't just political anymore. It's becoming real, natural. But the threat that had started everything hadn't gone away. The Vreth were still out there, still expanding, still consuming. The alliance had bought time through better defenses and early warning systems. But everyone knew the real test was still coming. Hanel ran up to her father, holding a flower she'd just grown. Daddy, look! I made it purple and gold. Jihun picked her up. It's beautiful, just like you. Mommy says the Vreth are coming soon, Hanel said casually. She showed me pictures in her mind. They look scary. Jihun felt a spike of concern. You can feel Mommy's thoughts? Sometimes, when she's thinking loud. Hanel touched his forehead. I can feel yours too. You're worried about me. Always, Jihun admitted. That's what parents do. Dr. Somin was recording everything. This is unprecedented. She has access to the bond network despite not being formally bonded to anyone. Her brain structure is unlike anything we've seen. That night, the family gathered for dinner at their residence on Earth. Valera had insisted on maintaining a home on Earth despite spending most of her time on Velkaris. Hanel should know both her heritages, she had said. Nari joined them, now a respected ambassador to the outer colonies. She had grown close to Jihun over the years, eventually accepting him not just as her mother's consort but as family. The frontier colonies are thriving, Nari reported. The mixed settlements where humans and Ashtar live together are actually doing better than single-species colonies. They innovate faster, solve problems more creatively. Because they combine perspectives, Jihun said. That's what this alliance was always about. Hanul, who was supposed to be eating, was instead making her food float above her plate. Hanul, Valera said gently. We eat food, not play with it. But I'm practicing, Hanul protested. Uncle Dehan said practice is important. Your uncle teaches military strategy, not dinner etiquette, Valera said, but she was smiling. The peaceful moment was interrupted by an urgent alert. Admiral Jiwoo's face appeared on the communication screen. We have a situation, Jiwoo said grimly. Long-range sensors just detected a massive Vreth force heading toward this sector. It's the invasion we've been expecting. They'll arrive in approximately 3 months. The room fell silent. Even Hanul stopped playing, sensing the adult's fear. How large? Valera asked. Larger than any force we've ever encountered, Jiwoo said. Projections suggest they'll hit multiple worlds simultaneously. This isn't a raid. This is an all-out assault. Through the bond, Ji-hoon felt Valera's determination harden into steel. This was what they had been preparing for. Everything over the past 5 years had been building to this moment. Call an emergency council, Valera ordered. All allied species. We stand together or fall separately. The next 3 months were frantic preparation. Every world in the alliance mobilized. Fleets moved into defensive positions. Civilians evacuated from border worlds. Supplies were stockpiled. Soldiers trained for the battle of their lives. Ji-hoon coordinated the human response while Valera managed the overall alliance strategy. Through their bond, they worked seamlessly, their thoughts moving faster than speech. What would have taken weeks of meetings and debates happened in hours. Hanul watched everything with those strange silver eyes. I want to help, she said one day. You're 4 years old, Ji-hoon told her gently. You help by staying safe. But I see things, Hanul insisted. In my head. I see the Vreth, I see how they think. They're not mean, Daddy, they're just hungry. Like a big animal that doesn't know it's hurting people. Valera knelt beside her daughter. What do you mean you see how they think? They're all connected. Like you and Daddy, but different, louder, messier. Hanul frowned, trying to explain something beyond her vocabulary. They don't think with words. They think with feelings, needs? I don't know the word. Dr. Soman, who was always nearby studying Hanul, leaned forward. You can sense the Vreth collective consciousness? If that means I feel all of them at once, then yes. Hanul looked at her mother. They're coming because they're starving. They need food. But they don't understand that other beings matter. They just see food. Through the bond, Ji-hoon and Valera shared the same thought. Their daughter might have just revealed something crucial about the enemy. Can you talk to them? Valera asked carefully. Maybe, I don't know. They're really loud and I'm little. Hanul looked scared for the first time. Do I have to? No, Ji-hoon said immediately, pulling her close. You don't have to do anything. You're our daughter, not a weapon. But the idea had taken root. Over the next weeks, Dr. Somin worked with Hanul to understand her unique abilities. The girl could somehow perceive and interact with collective consciousness networks that other species couldn't even detect. It's because she's a hybrid, Somin explained. Human intuitive thinking combined with Ashtar's psychic sensitivity. She's quite literally a bridge between different types of consciousness. The day the Vreth arrived, the entire galaxy held its breath. The first wave hit the outer colonies. The Alliance fleet engaged them immediately, using tactics developed over years of study. Human creativity combined with Ashtar discipline created fighting strategies the Vreth had never encountered before. But there were so many of them. The Vreth came in endless waves, ships that looked like they'd been grown rather than built, all controlled by that terrible collective hunger. Ji-hoon stood in the command center on Velkaris, coordinating defense with his brother while Valera commanded from her flagship. Through the bond, he felt her fierce concentration as she directed fleet movements across multiple star systems. Then Hanul walked into the command center holding Mireille's hand. She shouldn't have been there, but she had somehow convinced the guards to let her through. Daddy, Mommy, I need to talk to the Vreth, she announced. Absolutely not, Valera said through the bond, her mental voice sharp with fear for their daughter. I have to, Hanul insisted. They're hurting people because they don't understand. But I can make them understand. I can show them that people matter, not just food. You're 4 years old, Ji-hoon said desperately. How can you possibly? I'm not just 4 years old, Hanul interrupted. I'm also really, really old. I have Mommy's memories through the bond. I have your memories. I have memories from all the Vreth, because I can feel their network. I'm little, but I'm also big. Dr. Soman rushed into the command center. I've been monitoring Hanul's neural activity. She's not exaggerating. Her mind is processing information on a level that shouldn't be possible. She's simultaneously accessing multiple consciousness networks. If anyone could communicate with the Vreth, it's her. Through the bond, Ji-hoon felt Valera's terror at the thought of risking their daughter. But he also felt her desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, Hanul could end this war before millions more died. If we do this, Valera said, her voice shaking, we protect her. Full security. We pull her out at the first sign of danger. I won't be in danger, Hanul said confidently. The Vreth don't want to hurt me. They're just confused. They set it up carefully. Hanul sat in a secure chamber with Dr. Soman and the best psychic researchers they had. Through a captured Vreth specimen, they'd established a connection to the Vreth collective network. I'm going to talk now, Hanul said, and her eyes began to glow silver, brighter than any Ashtar's. Through the bond, Jihun and Valera felt their daughter's consciousness expand. She touched the Vreth network, and suddenly everyone in the chamber could sense it too, a vast, hungry, desperate consciousness that spanned millions of beings. It wasn't evil. It was just alive and terrified of dying. Hanul spoke not with words but with pure thought and emotion. She showed the Vreth what they were doing. She showed them individual beings whose lives they were ending.